Good evening. I am welcome, welcome. I am LaRahna Hughes. You probably didn't tune in if you didn't know that already, but welcome. I am doing one of my favorite things, sitting in my chair and looking out my window. It's almost sunset here in Ecuador. I don't know if you can see that with the glare, but I've got some hummingbirds that are right outside, really enjoying these orange flowers. And I realized that today is the end. Hey, Deborah, the end of 4 years in retirement. May 31st was my final day off the farm. I'm done. It's either sold, it's either donated, it's given away, but I'm done. And it doesn't seem that long, but 4 years later, I'm sitting in Ecuador in South America. I'm on a completely different continent. And it's one of those things where I decided after I retired to take a year to really figure out where I wanted to be and what the next chapter was going to be. And didn't really have a vision for where. When you can be anywhere in the whole wide world, where do you want to be? And it didn't take too long, much quicker than I thought. But I've been in Ecuador now almost 4 years. September will make 4 years here in Ecuador, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for retirement. I guess the backstory. One of my children said, "Mom, you're too young to retire," and I was like, "Show me the rule. Show me the rule. Where is that written in life that there's a certain point?" Um, but I wanted to be able to do the things I was passionate about and to really own my time. And what would it take to do that? And how would I back out of the things that were rich and rewarding? I enjoyed the work that I did on my farm and the restaurant. Grateful for the experiences and opportunities, the farmers market, and so many other projects and life work that I've done at different chapters. But I wanted to be able to do work that I was passionate about and then only do that work. It's a lot to keep up a farm. You've got live animals, there's lots of responsibilities, and a restaurant, and the catering company, and so many other projects and business things that were in motion. And it was a hard decision. It was one that I was fully committed to, but the wrestling in the time before I made the decision, really wrestling with that. Sometimes projects aren't done. The farm is one of those things that would have been an ongoing adventure. There were things that I had wanted to do during that farming chapter. And it's hard sometimes to make a decision to leave things because the assignment's over, the time is over for those things. And then to move into really an unknown, what you're going to do next. I'm going to take time to rest and regroup and revision what life is going to be. And I'm so glad I did. Um, there was one person that contacted me as I was in the process of making that decision, and she started with something to the effect of, but other people are going to think, and I just stopped her because I was just like, I don't care. I don't care. Sometimes in life, like, you don't ask permission, you do the things that you feel called to do in the way you feel called to do them. And I really strongly felt that it was time. It was time to close that chapter. Um, and really free up my time and energy to do things that I'm passionate about. I left with really a promise to myself: one, protect retirement, protect retirement at all costs. Um, and even that was a challenge, that really took some time of sitting with and just stilling myself, like being still, more so in my spirit than anything else. Of, can you stay retired? Can you realistically retire um, at a younger than retirement age and stay retired? And when I finally landed in Cuenca, part of, my quest was figure out what it takes to be retired. What does it take to be retired if you stay here in Ecuador? Surprisingly, it was a relatively low number. Um, some of the just living in America and really centering American living for the first 40 some years of my life, not realizing how different life could be outside of the United States, how affordable that freedom really was, that staying retired part of retirement for me, and figuring that part out. Then it's, what do you want to do? Deborah, come on, we're here. Um, yes, figuring out what do you want to do. And that goes back to like one of the dad stories in my life. Um, it's almost Father's Day. I got a dad story. But my dad asked, what would you be doing if you could do anything that you really felt called to do, that you were passionate about? All of those ideals were wrapped up in that question. If you were truly being true about who you are and what you want to do, what would you be doing? And part of the work I'm doing now is the story that I told him. But his next question was the hard part. Why aren't you doing it? Like, if that's what you really feel called to do, why aren't you doing it? All of it boils down to the fear, insecurity, guilt. All of those are things we pick up from the life trauma. It just happens because we live in an imperfect world. And it was, what if you dealt with those things? What would stop you from doing those things that you're passionate about? It would just be a choice then. If I'm not doing it because I'm afraid or I'm insecure about a lot of things, money, that was one of the things. Sometimes you work, 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 work. Why? Because I'm insecure about money. Oh, you're paying the bills. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But if I ever get off this hamster wheel, what happens? Um, some people, you got responsibilities. If you got children, you got businesses, you got employees to pay. Um, I remember some of the foolishness I told myself. That stuff that if it ain't moving, it ain't turning no money, and you got bills to pay. The pace at which I was doing life, farm restaurant, and I remember closing on the restaurant, and the restaurant was open in 60 days. I'm talking permits, DHEC, all kind of stuff that you have to do when you open a restaurant to the general public, like my water system and just all kinds of things. And I thought, why were you moving at that pace? Nobody was rushing you. Fear, some of the insecurities financially. Um, and like all of that wrapped up was part of the chapter. And then leaving that to see, okay, can you live differently now? Have you done the work so that you can really unburden yourself from needing to move through life at a pace that's not sustainable? And all of that has been part of this journey of retirement, um, making those hard decisions, walking away from things that I love. Some of the projects were delightful. I don't know about a lot of people, but like I have had one of those lives so far that like I wouldn't trade anybody because I have had a very humorous life and career. Some of the things that I have been able to do in life, it was enjoyable. It were things that I was choosing to do. And sometimes walking away from stuff that you like. Um, is hard, even though you're committed to doing it for reasons that feel good and feel inspired. I enjoyed the time on the farm and the shenanigans that I was able to pull off on that farm, from the survival training campground to the gun range, to the tiny cabins that we built. One of the last big projects on the farm was the tiny house conversion, and it was cute. It was cute, to the drive-in movie theater and the bubble ball soccer field, the barbecue and blues festivals, other festivals that we hosted for various reasons, mostly entertainment and community building by no means. Um, the animals that were raised, the friends that we made, the plates that we served, the friends that we met, the hugs that we gave out. Eileen Pressman from that area told me that I was the best hug giver in the whole wide world. And she was right. She was right. But then it was time for change. And in a whirlwind 30 days that ended on May 31st, 4 years ago. It was liquidating the farm, dismantling the campground, the shooting range. It was literally lifting tiny cabins up off of the land to transport them to other places for their next assignments. It was selling muscadine vines right out of the ground. It was pulling high tunnels up and selling them too. It was giving away fabric that has come back to me as a quilt for the blanket house. Um, there was a grandmother that I gave garbage bags of yarn as I'm sitting here working on another project uh, with volunteer yarn that has shown up at my house. Um, and in 30 days, with the help of some special people, people that like yard sales and liquidation sales more than I do. But in 30 really, really hard, long, dusty days, we liquidated all of that. The farm, the restaurant, the catering, um, wares, the farm wares, the construction wares, the livestock, the animals, the plants, some of them right out of the ground, the equipment. And then it was on to a new chapter. And I thought I would just sit. This is what I'm preparing for senior to be a seasoned citizen, where I'm gonna sit and tell stories. I remember back when and really think about the things that have happened in 4 years. Man, it doesn't seem like it was that long. But part of my part of my retirement was rest. You need rest. That's the first thing. You done blown your knees out because you didn't learn balance soon enough. I had a knee replacement surgery towards the end of the time there on the farm. And um, for retirement, I needed some new hobbies. And one of the things that I had been going to do since my father was a gold wing man to the end. He was on the back of a motorcycle. He was back on the back of a Honda Gold Wing the week before he passed away with a feeding tube taped behind his ear and a hoodie zipped up on him because I'm his daughter and we make things happen, me and my dad. And I said I was going to learn to ride. My father died was the day that the cargo shipment from California came with all of his things, all of his belongings. I had moved him to, at the time, Macon, Georgia, where I was living. And so his motorcycle, his gold wing was there. But he took his last ride on the motorcycle with Mike Manley, the hospice chaplain that was working with me, and his friend. They took my dad for his last motorcycle ride. There's a video somewhere on YouTube, on my YouTube channel about that ride, my dad's last motorcycle ride. It's a day that still just, if you got to instigate something, instigate that kind of goodness. And so one of my first excursions after I retired, in between the rest, was I went to the Harley-Davidson Academy and learned how to ride motorcycles. Only to then eventually move to Ecuador and say, I don't want to drive nothing. Motorcycle, car, truck, I don't want to drive nothing. Come pick me up, please. But that was my first retirement excursion, searching out new hobbies, exploring some new hobbies. And that was delightful. I went down to Charlotte to the Riders Academy there and spent a couple of days doing that. And then I was just exploring and resting, but exploring and resting. And everywhere I went, I'd say, does this feel like a place you'd like to live? One of my next hobby uh, excursions or escapades, maybe more accurate, is I got certified to do scuba diving. I'm currently open water certified. I can go diving 60 feet down under the sea. A 6-story building. I can go that far down. That's what I'm rated at. There's some advanced certifications that I'm thinking about going back and getting soon, maybe ish. But I went to Honduras. Uh, One, I went to a place that has warm water. I like swimming in warm water. If I'm gonna be out in the ocean, make it be warm water. And I went to Utila, the island of Utila. It's off of the mainland, and who that was kind of my first big adventure of retirement. And I remember the very first day, and I'm here with these thin, and tanned young people from all over the world. The cohort I still stay in contact with through social media was a young man from Uruguay, a young lady from Spain, and a husband and wife couple from, I don't know if it's the UK or Scotland. I can't quite remember. I have to go look at their Instagram and remember where they're from, but that region of the world. And many of them were 20 something year olds. Um, the young man from Uruguay was traveling. He was able to work while he traveled. And so he's one of those slow travelers that was also getting his scuba certification then. The young lady from Spain had taken a year off from work. She had saved up and taken a year off, and she was traveling southward, Central South America. And she was towards the end of her time where she was going to then, I guess, head back to Spain and maybe go back to work. The married couple was a young, relatively young. I think they were 20 somethings. And before they had children and settled down too much, they wanted to be able to tour. And they were doing 6 months on the America side, Central and South America. And then they were going to do another 6 months. They were going to go home, I think, for like the holidays, and then go do another 6 months in Asia. They were still working, but they had rented their house out, and that was additional income for them. And they were really cool and share with me about how they do their budgeting and things like that, so that they know. And sometimes they get to a place and want to stay a little longer, and how they kind of just maneuver that and kind of take that freedom. And so I was kind of the grandmother, the older lady, mama age lady, and a black lady with these young people, and we were all equals. We were all doing something really new and kind of scary. And I remember just the very first day, they get you suited up and you're in, I mean, full wetsuit, fins, goggles, tanks on your back, you're weighted, you got your weight belts on. And I remember them saying, we're going to go in, we're at the very edge of the ocean. The ocean is where we're at. And I remember them saying, like, your feet are going to be on the ground, so you'll have time to get in the water with all this gear and get acclimated, and your feet will be on the ground. I'm sure maybe that was true for the tall people. In fact, it was. And I remember getting in there and panicking, like my feet ain't, and I can swim, but I got all this stuff on, these tanks and whatnot. And I'm already like, they've told you what to expect. I've done my research. I even went and did like a exposure class some years before this. So this has been something in the planning. It's one of the it's a dive tank where you can have a practice tank where it goes down and you've got a drop off that gives you the depth. I don't know how many, I forget meters, but 40 feet down to 60 feet or so that you can actually do the training within the pool. And I realized I wasn't, claustrophobic. I didn't have any real hesitation issues. Now I just need to gain competency. There wasn't that fear of the depth or any of those kinds of things. So I get on this thing and I freak out. And the man grabbed me like you see a little kids. I've taken Mars to swim classes. Mars is my youngest grandson. And like they grab your tank and pull you up because you're not in water that you can't stand up. It just was, if I stood up, it was not, my feet weren't on the ground. So this is about 6 feet of water, maybe 5.5 feet, but I'm 5'3" and I'm in flippers, in the fins. So they grabbed me and I'm thinking to myself, and this man has told us that in about 5 days or relatively few days, we're going to be out in the ocean. And one of the tests we have to do is take the security stuff off. And I'm thinking to myself, that sounds stupid to me. I have all this security gear on for my security. Why would I get in the middle of the ocean? Not the middle, but in the middle of this alcove, which is the ocean. I'm gonna get out the boat. I'm gonna take this gear off in the middle of this ocean. That don't sound crazy. That sounds crazy to me, and it doesn't sound like something that I had the skill set to really do with competency. But I got myself together, and believe it or not, I was out there rolling off the back of a boat, rolling off the back of the boat, and I'm out in the middle of the ocean taking this security gear off so that I can meet the qualifications to be able to get this certification, because you got to be able to get yourself out of this water if you down in this ocean 6 feet under. But I remember in that process, One, this is one of those processes where you can't have no ego stuff in place. I'm glad for the healing work because your ego is no place for this. You incompetent. You better get it all in because you need to gain competency. And so if your insecurities stand in the way of you gaining that competency, your life is on the line. But I realized that what was unfamiliar in just a very few days, I had gained that competency. I was out there 60, 60 feet under the sea, exploring. Oh, there's not like life doesn't have enough of those experiences for me. I'm working on it where you're just in awe. You can't say nothing and you down underwater. So it's a very private kind of experience. You are with others and there's some communication that happens, but it's all you in your head. It's you and you're seeing all of this wonder. And I realized like this has opened up a whole nother level of access to just what life can be. Um, I renewed my passport right as before I retired, so that it was fresh. I got a good 10-year run, nothing stopping me. And just this January, that passport was full, and I got another one in January when I came back from my birthday trip. Uh, like the things that fear stops you from doing. This was a scary. I jumped out of into retirement doing scary stuff, things that I wanted to do, but that I was afraid of. Now, part of that is going through the values of what that really meant for me. Um, if this thing take me out, and I'm not trying to go before my time, but if it does, my children will have good stories. When did your mother? Well, see, she was in the Caribbean, um, down scuba diving, looking at stuff up under the ocean, and that's how she went. It's gonna be something exciting like that, probably. I've told them that, or jumping off a mountain strapped to a kite. That's my most favorite true story. It really has happened. Um, and I made it safely to the ground. I'm grateful. But it's like, what's the worst that could happen? What's the like face it, deal with it. This is a risky thing. That's why I get insurance when I go and I'm doing this kind of stuff because something could happen. Real life. I make preparations and then I go do it. If I choose to, if I want to, and I wanted to. And man, like being able to open up that part of the world has been amazing. Some of the just awe-inspiring moments I've had have been with that scuba diving, that hobby that I picked up. I haven't done it as much, but I'm back preparing to do some more diving right now. One of my recent activities on my social calendar is I enrolled in some swim classes. I can swim, but I want to go diving in the Galapagos. One of the really cool things is our airport here in Cuenca has just started direct flights to the Galapagos. So I'm really excited about that. And there's like diversity. This is Charles Darwin kind of stuff. That's where he did research and, whatever. But going and diving there, I've been told that the ocean currents there are much stronger than, for instance, Honduras, where I went. And there's some special certification for being able to dive in areas where there's a strong drift. And that area would be one of those areas. But the other is I thought one of the things I can do is one, to get my stamina up, but two, get my form much better. I'd be swimming, but it'd be taking too much energy and I need to be efficient with my energy. I'm working on health and stamina and those kinds of things. And so I said, go get you a class. That's what you do. Go get you a class. One, it'll get you back actively swimming, and just, make sure that you're using all of your energy wisely. I'm not using my energy wisely. And that man act like we on somebody's swim team. 4 laps. You mean down and back, or down is one, 2 is back? He said, go. What you waiting on, man? I'm trying to catch my breath. And so I know I need to be in the class, but working on getting my swim much more efficient. My backstroke is really good. I'm really effective on that. I can swim really good in that way, but I'm still wasting too much energy when I'm swimming in forward direction. So I'm working on that. I might go and do, there's some additional certification on learning how to work, learning how to dive when there's a large current draft on you. But that was a really cool, just what are the things that you've been wanting to do that you haven't done that really are important to you? And now you got the time. You got the time, you got the energy, you're young enough that you still got the stamina to do it. Get you some classes so that you can make your energy more efficient. And then I went, I did some of the looking. Is this a place that feels like you really want to live? No. Utila was a really cool place. I really enjoyed my time there. I enjoyed the people that I was with, the friends that I made. But it didn't feel like a place that I wanted to live. Nice place to go visit because I like diving in warm water. I like diving with those dolphins. Had the opportunity to roll out the back of the boat in that very ocean because we had tracked down some playful dolphins, is what the captain said. And we lined up like we were military and rolled out the back of that boat to go swimming. And I've got some video of that. But it didn't feel like a place that I really wanted to live. Made some friends that I'm excited about potentially going back. I'd probably go back to Honduras. I've got some friends on the mainland that we've just kept in contact through social media. They're friends that happen to have zip lines and hot springs, which are things that I like and that I've experienced. And so I told them I'm coming back. I'm coming back one day and I'm coming zip lining again and going to sit in the hot springs. They're in an area called Sambo Creek on the mainland, which is just up the road from Dr. Sebi's village, Usha village, that's there in that area. They're neighbors. They're right down the street from there. And so the hot springs that feed him, they've got hot springs and zip lines there on their property. And so I'm excited about potentially going back and doing some of that certification there, getting ready for Galapagos, where I hear it's amazing. I have been diving here off the coast, Isla de la Plata. They call it Poor Man's Galapagos. There's not as much diversity, but it's some of the practice I've been doing while I'm here. And oh my gosh, amazing. Giant manta rays that are just swimming by me under the water. And I'm saying to myself, you better not be crying down underneath here. You better not start crying because you got too much to pay attention to, keeping your mask unfogged, making sure you're checking your monitors and checking your oxygen levels and not bothering the coral and the fish. You a visitor here. But just, I'm excited about that. But I said no. And then what ended up happening was I was planning to go to Costa Rica. And during that time, I had shenanigans going on. I was getting a lawnmower to a young teenager and found a lady who had another one and went to go pick it up from her, and come to find out she had lived in Ecuador. And I told her, Ecuador's on my radar. I went and looked at the map. Ooh, it's on the Pacific coast. I grew up on the Pacific coast. Ooh, it'd be nice to be back on the Pacific coast. Oh, that might be cute. And I said, I'll get to it. And she told me that she had lived there 7 years and told me why they had come back, or had some health related things that drew them back to the United States. They didn't have insurance. That's what it was. They didn't have insurance in Ecuador. Mental note. If you don't want to have to come back for health reasons, you're getting older, insurance. So that was a side note, a seed that they planted that I made sure that I'm overinsured right now. I'm overinsured that if anything happens, major or minor catastrophes, I got some insurance, and I tested it out a year ago. It works pretty good. But I shared with her about that. And she told me some things about her Ecuador experience, some people she knew. She put me in contact with some people that she knew. And a couple of days later, the airline canceled my flight to Costa Rica. And I chuckled because it came up like so many things in my life where you can't stop seeing it. Like you're looking for something else in this Ecuador. You're looking for something. And I started looking at, and they said they use US dollars, but I was looking at housing in the various cities that I was looking at that might be interesting places to go consider. It didn't make no sense for me. The prices, I said, they say US dollars, but I can't see that condo would rent for that price. That doesn't, like, it's too low. So there's something in the conversion. I can't figure it out. I'm just going to, think about it. And when they canceled my trip to Costa Rica, I said, I feel like maybe I wasn't supposed to be going to Costa Rica after all. Maybe I was supposed to be going to Ecuador next. And so I did. And that was September maybe of retirement. I'd go, come home, still closing out some things. I had finalized the farm and closed that all out. I was living in Aiken, South Carolina at the time. half a year or so before I retired, we started the pilot of the first two umbrella houses. Well, the first umbrella house that moved into the second umbrella house there in Aiken, South Carolina. Right about the time that I retired, we had a 2 unit house, and we had a studio that we were using in our program. And we had terminated someone in the program um, right as I was retiring. And so I went and occupied the studio for a while as I was back and forth out of the country. And it was interesting. I would go and I'd come back. I was going and experiencing things in other places, but one was experiencing some of the economics of it was just affordable. It was once I left the United States, life got really affordable. And that was an interesting realization for me. And then Ecuador happened. And I had a list of places. And after maybe the third beach city, I realized I didn't want to live on the coast. I didn't. It was a nice idea, but I had started making a list of what was important to me, and being comfortable was one of those things. I don't want to be hot and I don't want to be cold. And the coast had heat and humidity. They had long periods of time in some of the areas where it was overcast, like 8 months, and then it was 4 months of hot and humid, and that didn't sound pleasing to me. And then in some of the cities that I visited, some of them that I like to go vacation to, Puerto Lopez is one of them. It's a cute little fishing town. I go scuba diving off of their coast there on the bay, or over to Isla de la Plata. I like the vibe of beach walking, fishing community that has that cool, gentle, easy living kind of feel. But transitioning there out of the States, you're very far away from large cities and like resources, like where are you going to buy furniture from? There's a lot to learn in transitioning. And I didn't like the climate. I like going there in our winter time, because it's like, if it's humid, it's not more than about 75 degrees. That's what I like, 74. I can deal with humidity at 74, 75 degrees. But it's not somewhere I want to live full time. And making the transition out of the United States, it was just far out. Some of these smaller towns, there wasn't a lot to do in town. So beach and eat pretty much is what you could do. Figure out your life, but there's not a lot there within the community. There's small little village like areas. And I just realized I didn't want to be on the coast. Then I went to Quito. I realized I didn't want to be at that high of an elevation. I didn't want to be in that big of an urban city. I didn't want to be in a city that felt really urban in the way that Quito did to me. That and the elevation. I did not like waking up in the middle of the night gasping for air. And I still had some commitments that I wanted to keep in the States. So I was going to be doing some back and forth. Um, but and I looked at some other places too. I had some people tell me, "Oh, you're a farmer. There's a lot of hobby farmers down in Vilcabamba, the Valley of Longevity." And I went and I was like, "But I'm a retired farmer because I don't want to be farming." So I'm not gonna retire to go farming. Although I do have a patio garden, I'm thinking about an aquaponics setup at my house again. So, but I'm not doing farming. That is not what I want to retire and do. I mean, I left farming because I was done being a farmer. That's what I did. I left farming. Um, but I went. It's a cute little village. Again, somewhere that I might go for vacation or, something like that, but not live. But I got to Cuenca, and the very first encounter, because I'm a farmer, was a man with 5 goats sitting at the bend where the light rail, this brand new, light rail is running through town. It costs 35 cents a ride. And this man with these goats, and it's like seeing National Geographic, where the old and the new work well together. You still see women in indigenous clothes. I'm talking about like they show at the museums. Still carrying things on their back and weaving things and sitting in their indigenous clothes, setting up shop outside of different places, shelling peas. Where it's this old world kind of vibe and flow and pace to life. And it's beautiful. It's clean. Like they call them the ants, the green ants. But every neighborhood, all throughout the city of parks, um, but like there's street sweepers, like old fashioned Sesame street sweepers, like you're pushing a cart with a garbage can and you have a broom and you're sweeping the streets. Um, I've watched parades to the end this last Christmas. We had an 8-hour Christmas parade. I think like 100,000 participants or something. It's crazy. We celebrate. We're getting ready to celebrate one of my favorite holidays this next week, Corpus Christi. It's the best for fireworks and sweet treats. Um, but I watched all the way through to the end of the parade at Christmas, and part of the end of the parade are the cleaning crews. And it is amazing. They dumped rose petals out of a helicopter at the beginning of the parade. I was there. I watched this massive dump of rose petals at the opening and right at the beginning of the parade. And just, people like thousands and thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people on this parade. It's one of our biggest, and it's one of the biggest parades I think, like in South America. It's over the top celebration here, and parades typically there's trash. I'm talking they came and scrubbed the streets down. The pressure cleaner would go, then the spot cleaner would go from horses and just, stuff, garbage. Um, all of the rose pet, everything. And I'm talking within 30 minutes of the parade ending, they were literally following the parade. So when that parade ended, within just a few minutes after the parade ending, the entire parade route has been cleaned. It's absolutely amazing. But all of the neighborhoods had this same kind of care and service. And so I was like, this place feels beautiful. The downtown here is our El Centro, but it's not like urban downtowns, big buildings. No, it's the historic district. That's our downtown space. It's very walkable. So the old architect preserved huge wood doors, carved wooden doors, and some buildings, 10 feet, or some of the churches, 15, 20 feet. Huge, massive, old world construction. You can see the influence, French at one time, but Spanish influence as well. The balconies, it looks like Bourbon Street. The balconies, similar influences, the conquistadoras, similar influences during colonialization, but restored. His community is not wasteful. They restore, they repair, from the little old Datsuns that you see driving around, 1970s, 1960 Datsuns that are in pristine condition, to being able to go and have your clothes mended, your shoes mended, furniture made. This is a maker community where there's skilled tradespeople in all kinds, pottery, the ceramic workers, carpenters, just. And so seeing all of this beauty, to me, it felt beautiful, but it also felt familiar. I grew up in Northern California, Spanish influence, town called Vallejo. Um, and so the plants and trees, these are trees and plants that are still growing at my grandmother's house. Grandmother's passed away now, but still growing. The bird of paradise, the eucalyptus trees, Blue Rock Springs, the parks that I grew up with the eucalyptus trees, the bottle brush, the hibiscus flowers. Many of the things that I see around me felt familiar to me from Northern California, even the climate. I've commented to myself mostly, but the weather here is called perpetual spring. It's 70, 75 degrees year round. We're going into winter. You'll have some days where it'll be 60s, nights usually 50s. Occasionally it'll drop down to like 47, 48. That's a really cold night here, but year round it's spring. This feels real common to what I grew up with in Northern California. We would get in the 80s during the day. Here, 70s is about our normal. So about 10 degrees colder, warmer, and about 10 degrees colder. We would get down in the 40s as our regular lows on cold nights in Northern California. Whereas here, 50s. It's just about year round, really, really cold, just dips barely down into the 40s, 47, 48 usually is about as low or about as cold as it gets here. And so flowers are in bloom all year round, which I absolutely love. So it looked beautiful for me. And then just life, some of those relationships and like going where you feel you're supposed to go sometimes. Sometimes it's your inner sha-na-na saying, ooh, I feel like this is where I should go. And some people I met, lady I met in this very building that I'm sitting in now, invited me over. Relationships I had made through social media before I came. And before I left, I was a leaseholder here at the house that I'm still sitting in, which has expanded, which has been some of the work. There's now 3 homes in the intentional community that we're building here, which has been some of the work. And so then it was just really figuring out how to cut off, wrap up all the loose ends from living in the United States. And that took a little bit of transition. It was going home and selling my car and canceling my insurance, my car insurance, and just preparing for the transition. A lot of times I would come in. I was working with a church in South Carolina. So I would come in oftentimes and land in Atlanta. My daughter was there, and at the time, I knew his grandson was there. And so I would often land there, and grandma blanket would drop in and do what I need to do, and then I'd go home. And then I did that quite a few times. And that was really cool. It let me take stuff much more easily than having to pack up everything at one time. But it was figuring out what I could let go of. For a while, I had a storage unit that, it's just you do so much purging, and then it was like, okay, that's all the purging I have the energy for. I've just purged like a whole wallop of life with the farm and the cabins and just all of life that I had downsized, and it was just getting to that point where this is as far as I can go. And so I kept that for a while of just being able to go and slowly process the things that were important for me to keep for this chapter of life. And then I promised myself, 1 year. You're not taking any new projects. You're gonna retire and take 1 year to rest. Don't start nothing. And I mean nothing. Do not start anything. You're going to rest. You're gonna find some new hobbies. You're going to take time to really revision what this chapter is going to be. And I held true to that. That was one of those promises to myself. Don't jeopardize your retirement. Your projects do not need to jeopardize your retirement. They better be sustainable, and you better be able to afford them out of your retirement budget. Uh, uh, and figure out what you're called to do, what you feel passionate about. Because so much of that is just choice. What do I feel called to do? If fear is not standing in the way, if guilt or insecurity is not standing in the way, what is it I would be doing? And so after that year, I had really taken time to clarify what that vision was. And it was to continue in the work that I've been doing, the social tech work, the tools for social sustainability. How do we fix community? How do we fix it? We all know what's wrong. May all not know all that's wrong, but we know enough of what's going on in our life, in our neighborhood, in our community, in our region. Um, and a lot of it needs fixing. Like if we're gonna be honest about it. And my work has been, how do we heal community? How do we create sustainable, resilient community? And a lot of my work in life has been that um, healing, transformation. We need to do sustainable, value-based transformation. If our values are off, we're gonna be off. If our values are on point, we still gonna be off if we aren't able to live our values. We can believe them all you want to. That ain't helping nobody. If you can't live them, and a lot of what's happening in life is because even if we believe values that we be sustainable, we keep our capacity to live them. Why? Because we got issues. We got issues. We got issues. That's why. It's all the reasons why we aren't acting in love with each other. To ourselves, it's why I was not acting in love with myself, because I got issues. How you working 20 hours a day, 7 days a week, you done blown out your knees and you still carrying on that kind of thing. Girl, something wrong with you. And figuring out what I wanted to do. And so some of what I've been doing, the social tech work's about 25 years worth of life work, just passion work. It needs to be done, and I'm of the mind to think through how we figure that out. Integrated community development and planning, integrated program development, community development, land development. And I realized that if we fix the value part and the capacity to live it, the real practical parts of community that need fixing, roof over head, food on the table. How do you go live the life passions that you've been called to live out? Um, what stops people? And sometimes it's economics, if we're honest. I keep getting up, going to this job because I have to put a roof over my head and food on the table for me and my family. You got to find better ways to do that. What if we could find better ways to do that and help people buy their freedom a whole lot quicker? And so part of that work has included some of the training, the leadership development training, some of the community development training, all of it with the foundation of healing first. We do healing first. We do the work of sustainable value transformation. Fix the stuff, fix the fear, fix the guilt, fix the insecurity so we can live in love with each other, so that we can fix what's wrong with community together, so that we can live more into our truth together. And so developing that work in a way that we can expand that work has been part of what I'm doing. Um, I started as soon as I got back from Ecuador, finishing up some of the projects that really launched some of my writing work. The first one was hashtag Uncovered, which is an ongoing project even now that we're working on, which I'm super excited about. One of the questions I got was, what does healing look like? And this book really is a real blunt. This is what healings look like for me. This is, how we develop better tools to do our healing work. And with that, there's also kind of a companion journal prompting for those that want to do kind of self-study with this work, but that gives you kind of the prompts that we use in our healing cycle work. The healing work is really a foundation. So I came back from Ecuador and felt really pulled to get that finished. I was really excited about that. That and another curriculum that I was working on that deals with relationship stuff and the healing behind it. Um, and I did some stuff in between, getting my bearings straight, working on my Spanish. But then the second one was really the healing tools. And this really talks about some of the other models within the social tech system. But part 4 of the book really explains the healing tools. So people that really want to be able to access this healing work, the foundation of the social tech work, being able to have this available. And then those that may want to really join our system. And this provides tools to be able to replicate the work in other places, because there's other people that are called to other places that I'm not called to take healing. And the social tech is really an infrastructure system that really is really well suited for working with leaders, those who feel called to be a part of the change. How do you do transformation work from a healing first centered perspective? It's a really different system. Then for some of the things, we've done about 3 journals that were created this retirement journey so far. Some of them custom. So this is the journal that was done for our soul safari, which I'll tell you about in a bit. Another one for some of the healing sabbaticals that we do here on site. Then really developing the social tech tools, some of those training modules that we do, and just putting them in replication form. This one really talks about, this is meeting with myself. This one also was the next one that I published. And this one was about prioritizing yourself and really taking responsibility for the first person that you're responsible for, yourself. If you want to heal community, but you're not willing to heal the person that you actually are in control of, yourself, this model really says, go sit down somewhere until you're ready to do the work on you, the person you can control. And then as you gain capacity to help others, move from that. But you start here. And leaders, we need leaders that start here. Let me work on me, because I have control of me. And then as my capacity to be in relationship with others increases, where I can do that more and more in love, now I go out and serve and lead from there. And that one also, there's a journal that goes for people that really take on that system, meeting with myself, and really talking about self and self accountability and responsibility and making it intentional. Are you living your life intentionally? If you had a business If you have a job, you go in and you manage what you need to do. Well, are we taking that same care and concern with ourselves? And so that's the second piece of the social tech series. And then um, there's a spoken word book that I did. It's a book of poetry. I was like, I'm taking a break. And I'm gonna write about something in the way that I want to. And I did a book of poetry. I don't know where it is. It's on one of the shelves somewhere. Spoken word for the revolution, and it's a collection of spoken word pieces that I've done that tie into some of the work and some of the passion around healing community. And yeah, it's on one of the shelves. I'm not gonna get it. It's on Amazon if you'd like to find it. Um, and then the next one in the series that I'm super excited about is Kingdom Ecology. It really talks about the ecology of community. It goes into a whole bunch of stuff. Some of the tools that we teach in our social tech. And then, man, something really exciting happened. So writing, getting some of the work that I've done for years really in form so that others can use the teaching tools and replicate. I started thinking about some of the other things that I really am passionate about. I've done a lot of things. I've had a colorful life. And one of the chapters of my life that was very colorful is I worked as a historian, like for real. Um, there's a whole if you don't know about the highway systems and how racism and just a whole lot of things played a part of that, it did. Highways were rerouted through cities for very strategic reasons. One of those cities that was impacted by the highway system was Macon, Georgia. I happen to have lived there, and I happen to be involved with some pretty awesome um, community advocates. They're rebels. Some senior citizens. I find senior citizens and get into shenanigans with senior citizens. That's what I do because I'm practicing to be a really, really good seasoned citizen. And they started this mess. And it was just how I ended up being a farmer. But anyway, there was a community garden. They let me plant seeds, and I was totally green. I know nothing about no seeds. I couldn't tell a lettuce plant from a collard plant. I didn't know nothing about seeds and growing and whatnot. And then years later, here I am, a retired farmer. But they went to bat and fought. It was a community that had been impacted by the highway system, DOT. They were coming through to do some more construction. They've deepened the ports in Savannah, and road construction was necessary to make those highways safer. The interchange between I-16 and I-75 out of Macon. And surprisingly, I got called in to come and work on that project because one of the concessions, one of the biggest that the DOT has paid in social justice concessions, but this community was awarded funding, and part of the requirement of this construction contract and the work that's still going on to this day was that they collect the oral history of this community. Um, this was one of those post-revolutionary Black communities right after post Reconstruction era communities that when slaves were freed, this is one of the communities that freedmen settled in. And like many communities, if you've heard of Black Wall Street out of Tulsa, many Black communities during that time operated like that with that same kind of vibrancy. And this was one of those communities that had historic value. It's on the National Registry of Places. They've worked to preserve the history and the recognition of that. And this DOT project required it. And I got to go in as one of the historians and conduct quite a few of the oral history interviews that are now part of that historical collection from Macon, Georgia. And it sparked a passion in me. Not only was it really, really cool, like one of the Mumford Point Marines, which was like the Tuskegee Airmen of the Marine part, got to interview him, and a lot of other really cool stories in history. It's a neighborhood that Lena Horne and Little Richard and a lot of others of some notable name came out of. And during that time, this was back in 2003, maybe, I said to myself, because I was doing this work, when I retire, I'm going to go do documentaries. And one of the things I'm going to do documentaries on is shaman and shaman medicine and how that has played a role for balancing and maintaining community sustainability and balance. And one of the friendships that I made several years ago was the founder of Ecuador Psychedelic Society. It's a society of shamans and academians and traditional medicine practitioners that are coming together to really work on healing, holistic healing here. And they've become my friends. The founder and some of their leadership core have become my friends. And one of those friends is Dr. Camila Rodriguez. She's an Andean doctor. She's out of Quito. Part of the people that have become my friend and my family here. And through that relationship, really sharing my insecurities. I don't speak well enough to teach this in English. Maybe, I mean, in Spanish. Maybe I do, but I probably don't. I promise you. My Spanish be raggedy. It's very functional. I get by quite surprisingly well some days in my Spanish, but it's raggedy. And when you're talking about things that you haven't talked about in Spanish, sometimes you don't have the words to say that. I don't have them words in Spanish because I ain't used those words in Spanish yet. And part of that insecurity has kept me from doing a lot with Spanish speakers. But last year I felt really compelled to work on that. I'm here. This is home. And healing is universal. We got issues everywhere around the world. We have issues. It's life. It's life. We're not operating in love 100% of the time. And when we don't, we traumatize each other. But she began working with me last year. And The Revolution Must Come to Our House, Our Home, the book that deals with the healing tools, we finally finished it. And so that book is now a bilingual version. And through the magic of technology, this year we're hoping to do some classes in bilingual. Google Meet now allows me to teach in English, and it automatically dubs it in real time, very little delay, into Spanish. And the Spanish speakers can speak in Spanish, and it dubs it back to me in English. So we're talking about doing some things, but through that relationship, like recently this year, we've been working with one of the shamans that's here in my community that I have been developing some relationship with. We now have a wonderful relationship where our umbrella house, it's the second house in our intentional community here, is hosting some of the ceremonies that are being done with the shaman. And I'm super excited about that, having the time to do these things that I really feel passionate about. And so this was one of the most recent finished published products with the books, is that bilingual copy. I'm super excited about that. And then I switched gears, and I write for fun sometimes. A couple of years ago, I was writing for a magazine, and so I was writing more consistently, and themes from life are the stories that I tell. And this one has been coming for a long time. I wrote a story 2019, and it was called the Honey Child Sister Girl Playlist for Getting Your Life Together, because I can name it whatever I want to, and that's what I chose to name it. You name your stuff what you want to. That's what I named mine. And it was an essay that became really a mental game, and it was about the songs, and some of the songs that really are wisdom packaged in a musical, envelope. And I have a collection of essays that are they're writings to Black women, because Black women probably can relate. It's the kind of conversation that starts, honey child. And if you have not had a honey child conversation where some lady sits you down and say, honey child, let me tell you something. Sit down, let me talk to you for a minute. This is one of those kind of books, and I had fun writing it. And it has sparked several unfinished projects. I have so many unfinished projects all the time, projects in work. I got a little bit of energy for that. There are two others in this series that are waiting for me to edit them. There's quite a few books that are done and waiting for me to edit them. But this was the most recent one, and it's fun. It's really cool. If you enjoy music, a lot of the music is Black music. If you enjoy Black music, there's a playlist in here for you to listen to. If not, just go search for the Honey Child Sister Girl playlist. I think it's on Spotify, maybe on YouTube. I can't remember. There's a playlist on YouTube and maybe on Spotify. The book has a QR code. I think I figured it out. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know if that picks up when I do this like that on there. But anyway, there is a QR code in the book. Maybe it's buy the book to get it. But this is about music that we can feel, and really having healing conversations through music. Music that inspires me or has had some meaningful insight to me. So I've been writing books. There's a few that are unpublished right now, just because I'm feeling it. Sometimes I write stuff and then say, Maybe you can go back and read that again. Let's go back and read that again, or let's sit it on the shelf until you like feel like it's done. There's a few projects like that, and so I've had a lot of time to really write um, at the pace of inspiration because I can like I'm in control of my time. Um, if I wake up inspired to write at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can do that. And I can go take a nap at 10 o'clock in the morning if I feel like it. And so it's been wonderful to be able to move at my pace, move at a pace that works with my quirkiness. Because I do, I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes, not because I have to, because something's on my mind. In addition to the writing, I do an occasional podcast. It's called the Raggedy Podcast Productions, the Holy Goldfish commentaries. I think I'm up to about maybe season, I don't know what, 6 or so. And by seasons, I mean I go down a trail until I'm done with that trail. I think there's one season that's got like 2 or 3 podcasts, and that's it. Whereas others may have 12 or 13. They're on my YouTube. You have to find it. I don't know where, but you can find them. They're on my YouTube channel. If you go through under my playlists, it's probably one of the playlists that you'll see for the different seasons. But talking about things that inspire me, and sometimes I feel them enough to want to share them with other people. But being able to do that at my pace has been amazing. My pace of life has always felt quirky when I see other, other motion. Um, but like I can go to sleep at, I can go to bed at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've done that on some days in retirement, and then wake up when I feel like waking up and do what I feel inspired to do. And that has been amazing. That time freedom of owning my time, um, and being able to move through life in ways that support me, support my wholeness, my wellness, being able to do things on inspiration, not out of obligation, is so different. Uh, Somebody asked me today, do I sell my crochet? And I was like, I crochet when I feel like it because I want to. And it changes it when it's under obligation to do something. I do it when I feel like it. And if the energy runs out for that, I put it aside till the energy comes back or until I take it apart and make it something else. And so that has felt really good. And so writing is one of the things I'm passionate about. And I've had so much time to do that without pressure. There's no deadlines. Um, I hate editing. And so using technology to do the editing for me and lining stuff up, that's some of the hard part. Like I can finish it, but who gonna go back and read for all those kind of little quirks and things? And so just being able to move at a pace so that it doesn't feel like a chore, it truly feels like chosen, inspired actions. So that's one of the things I've been doing. But then like some of my shenanigans are really big shenanigans. And part of it has been creating a space for people to come. Um, my house has 4 guest rooms where guests can come. We only really use 3 of the 4 guest rooms. One is kind of like the exercise room slash giant linen closet and stuff that people leave room and luggage. Um, but at any moment, we could change that and providing an opportunity for people to come and rest, but rest differently because part of this is about if you rest and get refreshed, what are you going to do next? Healing, 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 healing first. Like healing first. Do that first because then it makes everything else easier. It doesn't make it easy, but it makes it easier if you're doing the healing first versus going through life and wait until you bump into a brick wall. Oh man, now I'm damaged a bit. No, let's do healing first so we can stop bumping into brick walls, in life. Um, and creating a space for that because like I'm realistic in the work of healing. If healing's the fix, and I believe it is, we got to get better. We got to get more capable of being in love with ourselves and each other because we got to do this work together. The world's a mess all over the place. It's a mess. We got messes and fires in lots of places for a lot of reasons. It's just the way it is. The pendulum is swinging, but to get us back in the other direction. And I said, but If you're already emotionally bankrupt, you ain't got nothing in your emotional tank to be doing deep healing work, and it takes energy. It's not easy work. That's why we don't do it. It's not easy. I realize that. But part of it is, part of that healing path is I can't keep living my life dysfunctional. Come on, stop it, self. This is like this conversation, that commitment to healing. And when that happens, the reality is you got to unburden some stuff. If life is taking everything out of you, trying to do healing and life that's already taking everything out of you, yeah, there's some that just push through it and do it, but it's hard. It's hard. And so it was what would make healing easier. Rest, being able to come away from some of those burdens of life and learn how to do healing in a different way. It's very different. Learn how to do healing in a way that helps us get to the core and do that work of transformation within ourselves first, and then learning how to do it out in the community and wherever life calls us to be. And so part of that desire opened up really the creation of the International Welcome Center. It's my baby. It's my project, building an intentional community that was healing first centered and building it in a place. Oh my gosh, the hidden benefits of retirement, coming to a place that feels like 1970s kind of community, like literally. That piece. Um, and then doing that, investing your emotional and physical energy in you and learning ways to do deep healing and doing some of the work. It's not just head knowledge, no, doing some of the work, taking some of those boulders and leaving them, unpacking some stuff off of you using these tools, going home lighter, but also equipped with tools. The healing work doesn't happen down here. It gets started. The healing work happens every day that you choose to do healing, because there's stuff that we got to deal with. There's situations that we have to unlearn. There's values that we're holding on to that's killing us spiritually, physically. We're doing the damage to ourselves and to each other. And so opportunity sometimes matches vision, and it makes it easy to instigate. And this operates under the umbrella house model. The first two pilots were in Aiken, South Carolina. But how do we create spaces that are healing spaces, home? And so this provides some space. But then I took on the guest house, and for the first 2.5 years that we operated the guest house, it was on the fourth floor of this building. And then last year, some things were happening, some landlord issues, and some changes that were happening that didn't make that feel sustainable anymore. And part of this is about the freedom to be able to say, sometimes things go for a time and then they don't work anymore. And the lease situation and the changes they want to make were unacceptable. They jeopardized retirement. And that's one of those firm non-negotiables. Your programs and your passion projects will not jeopardize you being retired. And there were some potential financial consequences that went along with it. And I made a really tough decision. Again, one of those things. I practice this. Sometimes it don't feel done. It doesn't feel complete. It just feels done. And I made a very firm decision after the Gangster Grannies came last year, the last cohort, and gave them their 30-day notice. And it was one of those things of checking in on myself to see how my healing's working for me. Any fears, any insecurities come up. And I thought about that lady when I was retiring that was saying, well, people gonna think. And I thought that same answer. I don't care. I don't care. Nothing gonna jeopardize retirement. I do all this stuff because I want to, not because I have to. And that's such a good feeling. And we closed. I've had friends that came to me. One of them was a couple that was working at the orphanage, and they happened to be the Church of the Latter-day Saints. And they said, we have a ministry that moves people for free. It's a whole bunch of youngsters that'll come like back in the day, it was crop mobs, but like you mob in to go do something. You got a project or a task. I'm talking about 90 minutes. They had moved an entire house I'm talking they had Nautilus equipment that they had to move downstairs, Nordic track, ellipticals and weight benches and spin bikes that they had to move downstairs. 90 minutes, an entire house was moved. And then I sat. And in between this, one of the things that has become really important to me is birthday trips. So making this move, um, I had two things working against me. One was initially I came in and the way it goes here in Ecuador is after, so much time, you've got to have a visa to be able to stay. And the first thing you get is a temporary visa and it lasts 2 years. And after the end of 2 years, you can convert it to permanent residency, but only if you haven't left the country for 90 days. Yeah, you can't be out of country more than 90 days in 2 years. So I was really strategic in my travel. And most of my days after the first year where I was going back and forth to the States, I'll be honest with you, it was birthday trips. In between all of this really, really cool passion stuff, play, and shenanigans. One of the things that early on I put is a standing appointment to this day on my calendar, even if I don't go. Frisbee Friday. My friends meet at the park at Friday at noon and play Frisbee. And most of the time we sit on the bench and talk and catch up and chit chat about what's happening in our lives and around town and whatever. But Frisbee Friday has been my regular scheduled play date. I hadn't been in a while, and Wynette, one of our visitors, was here last week, and we haven't seen. One of them said, "I don't think I've seen you. You haven't been here in like a year," and I was like, "It has not been that long," and I was like, "It's been a while." But play. We're getting ready to have our next. There's a holiday every month, I think, except for one, like big holiday, and we go into play mode. We just had holiday last weekend. It was Battle of Pichincha, which is a big deal here. The big battle that was one that really turned the tide on liberation and the freedom from the colonizers. But then this is Corpus Christi, which is kind of Catholic, but a whole lot party. Sweet treats will be everywhere, and the best fireworks. Like there's people here that like I'm fifth generation, making the firework towers and they spin, and it's like I just keep saying, I don't think they got OSHA here as it relates to fireworks because it looks wildly dangerous. And I'm out there. I'm out there front row. The cathedral will have pyrotechnics falling down like rain. They've wired up and it's in the street. It's loud and it's people and it's party is coming up like next week. But I've managed play in some really fabulous birthday trips. Year before last, the theme was music because I figured if you get a theme, you could just build the whole trip around it. And it was a toss up between Corinne Bailey Rae, who I like, but I didn't like the album that she was on tour with, and Raul Midon, who is, I just love Raul Midon. Anyway, you can look him up, but I made the decision. It was either go see her or go see him. And I chose Raul Midon, like I said, because I wasn't as thrilled about the current album that Corinne Bailey Rae did. And as I was planning that, what put an extra exclamation was Michelle and DJ Ocello. Yeah, I think I said that right. This is an artist from back in the day, like 90s, back in the day. And she was also going to be close enough where I could plan her into the trip. And she had a new album that I had fallen in love with, The Gospel According to James Baldwin. It's a fabulous album. It's a Black woman's album. There's some songs in there that culturally, she's speaking to Black women. Everybody can get some of the wisdom that she's sharing. Audre Lorde and Baldwin. But I was really moved by that album and found out I could hit that concert too. And so I went scuba diving in Ecuador. I went to Paris and London and Barcelona, Madrid, Morocco. I don't know, maybe somewhere else in there that I picked up. But I ended up not only catching those two concerts, but just happened Leela James was also in concert, so I actually caught 3 concerts on that trip. And I'm very proud to say I took a $4 backpack from Temu. It was $4.44. It was a backpack and a purse, and that thing I was in like maybe 5 or 6 countries, maybe 6 or 7 countries on that trip, and that $4 backpack because I was not paying that luggage fee. I had a whole bunch of hops because I was going from here to here and here and here and here. And I was like, I'll buy some clothes somewhere before I pay for luggage on every one of these little flights. Because luggage fees have gotten crazy. That backpack went the whole trip with no problem. And I had resolved it's going to give out at some point because you paid $4.44 for the backpack and it came with a purse. And that backpack, I had confidence in myself. I traveled so good with that backpack, and I went from hot weather to cold weather all together. I was feeling really, really accomplished after that trip and had wonderful experiences. I stayed in a Korean hostel, and that still best part of the trip. It was hilarious, is what it was. But I had Korean men singing me happy birthday as we had cake on my birthday in Paris, of all places. And it was a choice. It was about living. Like I was there saying, "Oh, you could go stay at a really nice hotel in Paris," because I was going to be in Paris on my actual birthday. And then I was like, "Well, who am I have cake with it?" That feels too sterile. And there was an opportunity to go stay at a Korean. I was at a Korean hostel at a private room because I needed some privacy. But some of the hostels have private rooms, so that you can just choose that. But you get the vibe of the hostel. And they were like, "Why are you here?" Same reason you here. They said, "We've never had anyone that's not South Korean stay in one of our hostels." And I was like, "You have more?" It's like, there lots of cities have Korean hostels. And I'm like, put it out on the grapevine because there's going to be some grandmother looking for them specifically. It was just such a wonderful experience with some young men. Most of them were young men. Some of them I still follow on Instagram, and they follow me. And it was just the richness of the people that I've been able to meet. Last year's birthday trip fell around, I wrapped it around the Soul Safari in Kenya, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was the worst. It was my worst executed trip ever, ever in my entire life. The execution was so bad. It was so bad. On the first day, my wallet got stolen. Day one, I was on a layover and got my wallet stolen on day one of that trip. So I went through the whole trip with no. I didn't have debit card. I didn't have my credit card. I had lost my first startup cash. I at the airport in Guayaquil, I had gotten some starter cash out of the ATM. I lost that day one, but I had a great time. One of the places that I wanted to get to was Burkina Faso. If y'all don't know about Ibrahim Traore, he is my idol right now in life. And getting to Burkina Faso, I'm glad that I went because it's a U.S. ban. There's real limits on Americans going to Burkina Faso for a lot of really good reasons, but just grateful to go and have that experience of the before. As this world revolution is happening, there's change happening everywhere. So in between some of the really serious work with the International Welcome Center and the Social Tech and the Global Underground Railroad, I used up those 90 days. I came back with 88 of the 90 days spent, and I left myself 2 days in case that trip had any kind of flight issues that I didn't want to jeopardize not getting my permanent residency. And so in December, I became a permanent resident. And some of my travel restrictions are lifted for the next 2 years. I have to be in country 6 months, 6 months a year for the next 2 years. And then after that, to maintain my permanent residency, I just have to be in country one day every 2 years. So that was a huge, I did some in-country trips, did a couple of other trips in between, but those 90 days, a lot of it was back and forth to the States for some of the commitments that I still had. And so I was really careful about that. And then, so the work has been expanding. I did some things and had the opportunity this year, even with the expansion of having the convergence of 2026 of really looking for those that want to join the leadership team and really help with some of the expansion, those that have the capacity and the skill set to really help with that. And so in April, there was conversion of some of the alumni that have gone through the training, one that's gone through our leadership training, and really beginning building a team so that we can do more. And that was a really cool time. We had a lot going on. We had a lady who's involved with the Federation for Intentional Communities come and do some documentary work with us as part of a series that she's working on, dealing with some of the challenges of developing sustainable community, especially within the intentional community framework. But also, it was time to really talk about capacity and increasing capacity, and at the same time opening the third house in the intentional community here that just last week got open. I'm super excited about, and that's the blanket house. Healing's one thing, and these houses are really space for people who are either transitioning or who want to come live in spaces that are really focused on healing spaces. And so individuals, part of it's the getting free. And we've looked at that from an economic standpoint. What would it take for me to own my life full time? And for those that really are looking at Cuenca as a way to be able to afford how to do that, it takes about $750 within our program. About $750 a month covers the healing work and the support for that, as well as housing, and then living expenses that you can live relatively comfortable, conservative, comfortable, but being able to own your own time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's about what it would cost you within our program at our umbrella houses, which we have now 9 bedrooms, dormitories, as they call them here. We have 2 that are double occupancy. There's a family room down at the umbrella house down the street. We have a family room that really is a really generous sized room. So if families want to come, we've got space for that. Or pairs of people. It's really great for people, 2 or 4 people to come together and be able to have space where they're coming and healing together. But then, like, deciding what you're going to do. We had an opportunity, and the blanket house really is one of the solutions for the life exhaustion. The blanket house is a really, really simple program. It's not complicated. It says sometimes rest is the healing work you need to do. Sometimes it's rest. And this particular casita, it's a standalone casita, and it will allow us to hold respite space for women. We've decided that's who we want to serve with this particular program. And so women can apply and be able to come for 2 weeks of respite stay, supported, your housing and your food, um, community members that will assist you if other kinds of activities feel like rest for you here in our community. There's lots of amazing things that might fit into that model of rest. And it was a team effort to create the space, the finances to hold that space, the furnishings, the decorating, and it's so cute. If you didn't see the virtual open house that I did last week, check it out. We even had a guest. We finished it on Wednesday, and Thursday we had a guest that came to, and we put her there and ran through all the kinks of making sure that it's going to be ready for women that come to do respite stay. There were a few small kinks that got fixed, and she said it was very comfortable and felt like the love that I really want that program to usher in for women. And so that's been some of the physical things of really expanding our physical community here. Um, the 3 houses provide us with the opportunity for many of our friends that have come and participated in our training and gone back to lives, but also space for those that want to come and really connect with this work. Um, I've done a lot of growing and healing because it's a lifestyle. There's stuff comes up, my issues come up, and it's taking the time to deal with them. Some of those issues are physical, the out of balance and the stuff that my body needs to heal from. Like that's real in my life. Like healing is not just the emotional or dealing with the trauma, it's the way it impacts my body. So even that is, playing with what feels sustainable, um, to restore health to my body. I want longevity. I want my body to be able to hold out and do the things that I want to do when I want to do them. I don't want my health, my weight, my stamina to be an issue where there's something in life I want to do, and because I haven't done the hard work of, getting my health into shape, I may be limited. This place has provided me with that opportunity. I have really good access to fresh food, fresh fruits and vegetables, and the non-mucus forming and alkaline stuff, and stuff that's grown and raised in ways that are quite different. Um, I I'm a retired farmer, but I still got a micro farm at my house. I've been doing that too. um, I now have. I was telling somebody today, and I was like, "But I'm retired. I have mandarin oranges that I'm now sharing. This week I started sharing them with some of my friends because they're getting nice and orange, and oh, they're so delicious. I've got mandarin growing, I've got figs. There's a few on there. The birds keep fighting me and winning. Um, they didn't ask to eat my figs, but they are. I've got mango and papaya trees growing, lemon trees growing. I have way too many pineapple growing, and it is testing my patience. Pineapples take a very long time, like several years, to get fruit, and none of mine have fruited yet. One's huge, and it still has not fruited. So I'm like, y'all are taking up real estate like soil, but they're growing. And then there's an assortment of other things. I got some roses. I'm now starting to do like flowers. Some of them are beneficial companion flowers, but I've got red cabbage, green cabbage going. I got broccoli, celery. I got tomatoes. I got yellow squash. We got strawberries. We got thyme. There's a Cuban oregano that is grows so well and is so medicinal for you. Kale, nabo, which is kind of close to like our turnip greens. Nabo, yeah, it's I just call it turnip greens. I don't really know what it looks almost like bok choy, but it's very turnip green tasting. Um, what else? There's probably a few other things that are growing, and we're talking about our next project is going to be a aquaponics, a hydroponic system that'll be running. It'll probably be here. We relocated the micro farm to the umbrella house down the street because it's got a much nicer space to be able to really put all of the garden in one space. So I've been doing retirement farming. Um, Surprisingly, one of the main things that I raised on my farm was quail, and quail are really, really familiar here. You see quail eggs mostly. They don't eat the meat so much. They told me it's a weaker bird and we don't eat that, but I was like, yeah, I don't know what you're missing. It's a good bird. And I have a lady that I can just message and she'll butcher them for me and bring them to the farmers market on Saturdays, if I want her to. But I decided I don't want to do livestock. I have things that I don't have to be responsible for. I have plants. Um, and so just having the freedom of not being responsible for anything. Um, so yeah, building this has been exciting. But then, like some of the personal things I've done. More recently, I took a flower decorating class. Now every flower arrangement I make, I'm like, I took a class. I took a class. So I'm showing you, what I've gotten from my class. What I'm showing is that I need more classes, but I put them in the vase in ways that feel good to me, and that's good enough. The other hobby, maybe it's still a hobby, is my ceramics work. I just recently did two more pieces in the class I did a couple months ago. Of course, they are tools for snacks, they are ingredients for snacks. One is a really cute snack bowl that has some artistic elements. It's a snack platter with a bowl in the middle. I've tested it recently. It is the right amount of guacamole and plantain chips for snacks, for one. Maybe two if you're sharing, in a sharing mood. But I've done several classes now in ceramics, several batches of classes in ceramics, both traditional ceramics and the raku firing, which is a Japanese firing technique, and developed like a circle of friends that are my ceramics friends. Um, I started volunteering at the community theater, which is so nostalgic. As a kid, one of the things This is the stuff your parents make you do, but it was for you, like it was good for you, but you feel like as a child they make you do it. And one of the things that I got made to do as a child was put on your black and white, because that's usher attire, and I would go volunteer at the theater. I would volunteer at the community theaters. One of them was Oakland Ensemble Theater. I don't think the Oakland Ensemble Theater is in existence anymore. Um, but also at some of the theaters in the Bay Area. I remember ushering at the performance of Fences with James Earl Jones, or seeing Patti LaBelle in Your Arms Too Short to Box with God. Um, but it was at the Oakland Ensemble Theater that I ushered at the play about Paul Laurence Dunbar, who, as a teenager and into today, is one of my favorite poets, Paul Laurence Dunbar. And so I started volunteering. They asked for volunteer. I filled out the form. I filled out the form, and they called, and I would volunteer one day, usually per show, and I always worked the snack bar. Go figure. And I guess it was sometime last summer, they asked if I would do a reading for a particular play. Um, a lot of the immigrants here are, in the past, historically, have been closer to retirement age and white. And this play had some diversity, and I think someone knew the playwright, and the playwright was very adamant about using this play and um, replicating the diversity that this play represented. It was part of the story. And they asked if I would read an interview for audition for one of the parts, and I did. And they gave me a part. And I had no idea how much energy it takes to do theater work, to learn this story and memorize it. I do really good reading. My audition was great because I can read with emphasis. And memorizing was a whole different thing, and I had not counted the cost appropriately of how much energy it took. At the time, I was also planning an international retreat in Africa and fabulous birthday trip that wrapped around this retreat in Africa that was going to visit like 8 countries in Africa. So it was going to be a whirlwind. That was last birthday trip. And yet I did. I surprised myself. I got most of my lines right, probably most of the nights by the time we got to this. And we did it it's a really tight 2 months. 2 months is what you got. And you go from reading this script to having this script memorized and staging and all of this. And that was a whole experience that was wonderful. Um, some of the work that I've done pre-retirement was I wrote a play that ties into the hashtag uncovered book, and it really is about using theater as a healing modality. If anyone knows about theater of the oppressed or rainbow of desire, it's a style of theater that's intentionally about healing, about social change and transformation. And this really follows that model. And so it was a really good experience from the inside of doing theatrical work with our community theater, which is quite a robust theater. They do 6 full productions a year. It's a really cool spot. And so I got to move out of the snack bar for that particular performance and was on stage playing Josefina in Jukebox for the Algonquin, a play that is a relatively new, I think in the 2000s, play that was written by a playwright from the United States. That was cool. And from that, I now have an even bigger circle of theater friends here, and got asked to participate in another play production that happened this year. It was wonderfully a Reader's Theater production of the play called Seven. It was a new play to me. I wasn't familiar with it, but it was a play about 7 women. Uh, Advocates around the world and their stories. And that really felt meaningful. Um, with my passion for people telling their stories and being able to put voice to the words that these women spoke or wrote in telling their story. I felt honored. And that particular production was a fundraiser, and the funds from that production that were collected from the sales and donations went directly towards Mujeres con Éxito, a woman that supports a program that supports women dealing with domestic violence, challenges that are real in lots of places. And so that felt really good. And the energy that I took was much, much, much lower than the memorization of the lines and the way the other play was. But those have been some of the really cool things. I've been able to participate some of my new hobbies between my ceramics and my theater work. Um, Friends that I've met across all kinds of um, life walks, amazing women from all different walks of life. And having the time to do some of those things simply just for the joy of it, because I got the time. I've done some volunteer work. One of my friends does really cool volunteer work, and some of the collections that I've done a few times over the years. Sometimes it's behind the scenes where I send, a group of 5 or 10 friends. Hey, there's some children that and I'm gonna sponsor them for Christmas gifts. You want to get in on this goodness? Send some money, send some money, so I can keep finding good ways. But being able to help, he's a helper in the community. And sometimes I'm inspired to support that work that he's doing. I've gone and walked with him by his side um, as he does things like going and checking on widows in communities, older women that don't have family anymore, but who still require care for some of their basic necessities and needs. And being able to be a part of that is about finding, my kind of people that are out finding solutions for the things that they see and feel called to do, feel inspired to do, not out of obligation, just out of goodwill. It's something I feel inspired to do, and I can, and I choose to. And so I've developed a really cool set of friends and relationships. They ask me where I'm from. I say, I'm a Cuencana. I'm a Cuencana. I had one man's with the finger wave. No, 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 you're not. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I am a Cuencana. I'm your neighbor. I'm your family. Some of my neighbors, I tell them, you're my family. You're my family here in Cuenca, my chosen family. And so many of them, the relationships just remind me of what relationships well, like back in the days, this is like going back in time, but with high-speed internet, fiber optics, and a light rail I can take for 30 cents because I don't qualify for the Tessera dot and get that senior rate, which is half price. They ride the bus for 15 cents and ride the Tranvia for like 17 cents. I'm jealous. I ain't gonna lie, I'm jealous. Maybe that's envy. I'm not sure. I'm healing. I'm working on some stuff, so pray for me. But it has been, it's been quite fabulous. It's been better than I thought. Um, Sometimes you walk into the darkness and you don't know what life is. But like I had a conversation with myself, dealing with the real fears and the insecurities about moving to a foreign country. And I said to myself, girl, you know how to live in the United States. You know how to do that. You've been doing that all your life. What's the worst that could happen? It don't work. You got to go back to the United States. You know how to do life there. And part of it was I realized like it can just be what it is, the experience. I don't plan on coming back to the United States. I told my children that I don't plan on coming back. It's a downgrade to come back. It's a downgrade. There are so many things that I was like, this is worse. One of my recent visitors went home and sent me a picture of the juice spot where juice was like $11 and some cents. So we're talking $12. And I was like, dollar 50 at the most. I I don't think people understand. Like from the American perspective, oh, developing nation, third world nation, whatever the vocabulary that you use, and we think that it makes life worse. And the reality is, for me, it has made life better. I'm in a community where the culture is so much more aligned with my values. That culture of balance and rest. Let there be a holiday. Um, Chasing those dollars, much less important. Time with their family, quality time. Families that I see in the park outside of my kitchen window or outside of the windows as I walk around my house, and they're spending the day in the park with each other. 2, 3, sometimes 4 generations out there just together. Um, because they can. Building their life around balance a whole lot more. Good food, temperate weather, beauty everywhere. Like It's just built in. Flowers, um, murals, artwork. We have huge ceramic murals. Just I'm talking like 4 or 5 stories tall, where ceramic tiles have been creating this beautiful work. It's visible. It's incorporated into life. Beauty. And it feels good. So much of life feels good. And it feels good to have a life where I can live my passions. Um, Man, 4 years has gone by, and there's so many wonderful experiences that I've had. Um, and everything's not rosy. But like when life is not exhausting you, when stuff happens, you've got the energy to deal with it. I've experienced being pickpocketed. Whole story. There were some senior citizens involved. I was herding senior citizens and wasn't on my game taking care of myself. My house got robbed. Um, Life isn't perfect anywhere. There's issues, but like in the scope of things, those were like minor blips in my life, minor inconveniences. Yeah, I was indignant. You shouldn't take from me. Doggone it. I don't care what it is. Don't take my stuff. Don't violate my space, especially my home. Yeah, there was that, but like I wrote it off, cost of doing life in Ecuador. Bad stuff happens. You lose sometimes. I learned how to replace my cedula. Um, I learned about, just the reminder of careful. Um, my house got broken into because I didn't lock my patio door. Because I'm on the second floor and there's no way up. Who would know that random neighbor would have a ladder, and dudes that had been casing the city, because there was video evidence, they was casing several neighborhoods, would find the random ladder and come in, and my patio door is unlocked. You got me. You got me. Not without a fight, though. Not without a fight. They were limping when they left. There's video evidence. I keep it because there's still a little petty in me. Good, good. Limp on. Limp on. It's gonna cost you something. But by far, there's been so much goodness, um, that I'm grateful for retirement. What's on the horizon, you may want to know? There is always something on the horizon. The most newest of shenanigans, though, through some of the relationships. Over in Africa, I got introduced to Mama C. Charlotte O'Neill is one of the OGs. She and her husband are Black Panther exiles, exiled to Tanzania for the last 50 years. Um, Her husband was the founder of the Kansas City chapter of the Black Panthers, and they were just part of the resistance from government of the movement and what was happening. And they were smuggled out of the states to protect their lives and their safety, and have set up home and community, eventually in Tanzania. But she reached out, and they found out about Soul Safari. I don't know how. Who knows? Magic. And they talked about their commitment to healing work, the community that they're in, that they've been a part of building and establishing there, doing so much good stuff, but still holding pain from 50-year-old wounds. And our work is about deep healing. How do we deal with that stuff? You do the work, but the pain is so heavy and so expensive. And she said, I want to come to Ecuador. And I said, I want you to. And I got some agendas. Part of it's collecting the stories of living history, collecting that oral, the living history, the public history, getting history from people where it's important that they collect it. Historians that write about usually what's important to them. And fights for liberation is important to me. And so she's planning to come. We're working out all the details, but we've locked in the tickets. She will be coming and doing the healing work here. We'll be doing some work so that we can do documentary work with her story, collect the history, but help her with working through those history moments, the stories, the trauma, through a healing, um, the healing lens that social tech allows you to, so that telling the story does healing work and not just reharming. We need the story, but sometimes the way that we collect the stories re-traumatizes the person telling them. We need to record the history. It's important to have it, but doing it through a modality or social tech work that helps build healing into her storytelling. She'll be leaving us and then launching her approximately 2-month Heal the Community tour. Some of the activities that are tied to the 60th anniversary of the Black Panther Party. And we'll be working on some of the media that hopefully will be able to correspond with that celebration as well. And so we're super excited. Um, we've met sometimes through the magic of video chatting, and she's just one of those people that you want to sit and listen to the stories. It's wisdom. It's wisdom. And so I'm super excited about that and her willingness to come and be involved in our healing together and in learning the social tech tools and really applying them to her own personal healing journey. Tell us about her healing journey and allow us in this way to share these healing tools with her. So I'm super, super excited about that. It may alter some of my birthday trip plans. I've planned the second half of my birthday trip. I had something else in plan for the first half, but this Mama C situation is changing some of that, and where I may be spending the first half of that yet to be determined. We're still working through the details of that. But the second half of my birthday trip is booked, and I'll be going to Patagonia. Gonna go into Chile and Argentina and Uruguay and Brazil, to the ends of the earth, and the glaciers that are down there, and the national parks in Chile, and the waterfalls in Argentina and Brazil, and a little trek over to Uruguay. Um, with a friend of mine. She and I are going to travel. One of my seniors, super excited about that. Um, what else is on the horizon? Thinking about going and getting that advanced certification in my diving. I want to go to Galapagos. And I keep saying, get your diving together so when you go, you can get some really nice diving in. The diversity is supposed to be amazing. Kind of scary, but amazing. Like sharks and stuff, hammerheads, and I've already seen like the manta rays, and those are just majestic but huge and kind of scary. Um, so I may think about doing that. My daughter says she's coming. My older daughter, one that hasn't been here, is talking about maybe coming Thanksgiving. So that my grandson can come and play with Grandma Blanket. Um, what else? I've got some personal projects happening. I'm working on designing some furniture, which is kind of exciting that I'm having made. A lot of things I've had made, but this one I'm really, really involved with the design work. And yeah, it's been a lot. So I'm taking it very slow, but I'm excited about that, seeing things come to life that I've created. Um, what else is coming up? The work with the shamans and working with some of the my Spanish speaking neighbors in my region here is really exciting to me. Um, Doing the things that I envision doing when I retire, I'm going to go make documentaries, and I'm going to do it on things that are important to me, like people telling their healing stories, uncovering themselves in healing, and shamans, and how shamans have been doing the work in indigenous communities, perhaps of helping them heal community. And like I'm doing that work, like I'm doing it. Um, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for owning my time and being welcomed into a community, into a country that gives so much to me in way of supporting the life that I want to live. Um, the economics of Ecuador allow me to do more. than I could see doing in the United States and still have freedom of time. It's amazing. Looking through the artwork that went into the blanket house, one of the things my godmom sent back to me was the wall quilt from the very first umbrella house. And counting it up over these 5 years, 4 years since I retired, but 5 years of even beginning that work, the physical work of the community building, to realize that the blanket house is house number 6. Um, Being able to have the space for people to come and do healing at a relatively affordable rate. Those that want to transition out of life, being able to have a place where healing does come first, like real serious about that. Healing comes first because then it makes it easier for us to work together and not harm each other. Um, I couldn't imagine coming back. Like, I understand what it would take energy to earn what it would take to be able to have this capacity in the States. And so I'm grateful for the welcoming into this community with my raggedy Spanish, learning their culture, um, developing relationships with people, the work with my friend who's part of the psychedelic society here, developing a friendship over the past 3.5 years, and just waiting for inspiration to say, this is part of a point of a connection that we feel like we should work together, but like really learning how they build relationship that says, it's not about the transactions. We get to know each other first. And out of that knowing each other, we find the things that we feel called to do together. And that's unfortunately, sadly, quite opposite what we see sometimes. Let's do this project together because the project's important. No, people are more important than the projects. Do the projects help you live more sustainably together? Are they bringing you together? Are you learning to work the kinks out of how we do life together? How we deal with conflicts and the stuff that doesn't feel good, that needs just some working on? Are we willing to sit at the table and do that? Do we have the capacity and the commitment to do it? And so I'm so grateful for Ecuador welcoming me in. Um, the friendships with my Bessies, Miss Gloria and Miss Maggie, I've said, are the new grandmothers of the program. They feel like old school grandmas. They act like that. You have a need, they got support. They waiting at your house, waiting for you to come home so they can help you fix your problem. And like I said the other day, they are tracking me down to help me fix my stuff. You said you need somebody to move something, didn't you? We here waiting for you. Where you at? Come home. And then somebody calls me and said, come home. Miss Gloria said, come home. They got somebody here. Wait, you, nothing in it for you other than the joy of helping me, are willing to do that. And so many relationships I found give me that, where they are reminding me not just how community moves, but what community feels like. And man, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for being able to provide a space for those that have come. Quite a few people have come and gone and learned and are living some of the work of healing. It's showing up in their lives as they do the work. They're seeing growth and transformation in their own lives. And I'm grateful to be a part of that too. I'm grateful for the pace that life has become. I'm grateful I took a year to rest and revision. I'm grateful for seeing just dreams. I didn't know nothing about no shaman. I didn't know no shaman in 2013, but that desire in my heart, curiosity, can I follow the curiosities as a big old grown adult? Yep. I'm going to go make documentaries with shamans and shaman medicine and about their role and go collect history in a way that heals us, but that lets people tell their story and document the history that are important stories to tell. And it's like, what would you do if fear and insecurity and guilt weren't stopping you? That stuff, I do that stuff. And then it's like, We're doing it. We're doing it. Um, Retirement has given me a lot to be grateful for. Um, Following inspiration, it's the listening. I know it's a product of my healing. I'm healing so that I don't let fear and guilt and insecurity stop me when the harebrained idea comes into my mind. And if it feels like something I want to do, saying, I'm going to go do it because I want to. And that feels real purposeful. That when I'm living that life, I'm living in my purpose. I'm doing the things that LaRahna was wired to want to do, but that feel true. Being able to get up and answer that question that my dad left me with. What would you be doing if you could be doing what you felt called to do? If fear and insecurity and guilt weren't stopping you, what would you be doing? And on so many days now, that is real life. I'm doing it. What you want to do today? Sit in my chair and eat popcorn? I'm doing it. Or write or do things that feel really important. And sometimes eating popcorn feels real important. What do you need today? Rest. You've done some things because you felt passionate, but that there were lots of energy that you put into that. What or do you want to do now? Rest and regroup and refill my tanks. And to be able to do it on that Chick-fil-A money that I harass my daughter with. Everything I do, guess what I'm doing with my Chick-fil-A money? Because that's what it feels like. Got that $20 and I'm having a grand old time. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the people and the places that have received me well, with what feels like love and care. I have increased my joy exponentially. Um, I have time for really, really cool shenanigans. I spent 2 years flower bombing people because I could. $1 worth of flowers. I had a grand old time. I instigated others in. If you were here and joined me, you too might have been a part of that instigation. But just randomness of joy, finding things that give me joy, has been part of my greatest uh, pleasure here. And so many of the things that I do are things that I do because they give me joy. Um, I feel called to do them, and I'm grateful for that. So 4 years of retirement. Who would have known 4 years ago, leaving that farm, that I would be in South Carolina building global communities? Um, I forgot the land projects. Oh my gosh, how did I forget that? There's two land projects in various degrees. The Georgia property has got all of its build permits. We're waiting on the right team to come and say we want to partner with this project. We want to join and do this project together. It's an intentional community design. We've got capacity, legal capacity to build up to 23 units on that project. It's two parcels. The first parcel is permitted and ready for build. I've named the street, the cul-de-sac, and everything. I got to name the whole street. It's called Seeds Court. Wonder where that came from. That is permit ready. So if anyone is thinking about healing centered intentional community building in the States, that project is waiting for instigators, co-instigators to come along with that. We'd love to find um, someone who's in the construction trades that wants to take on the physical build of that. We've got some site plans already done and phased work done. But the other is a land purchase, land holdings now on the coast here in Ecuador. It too is waiting for the same thing. Sometimes you get it so far and it's like, yeah, we're not going any farther until there's others that want to do this work together. That property is paid for, and um, initially the plan was to use it for the survival training that we do. There's some land issues that's not really the best use for the land. And so we've got the capacity to build a couple of casitas, a really small kind of intentional community build, but really open to experimental building. One of the other things that I've done, I forgot, I've been doing a lot of stuff, a lot of playing. I did a construction class, my very first construction class in Ecuador, all in Spanish. I was proud of myself, but went and took the construction class on building geodesic domes. Google it, it's a whole big thing, but really good construction design. I'm really into quick build, rapid construction housing, and as much that can be done self build. And I now have a whole group chat of men. I was one of two women, I think, in the class, maybe three, but a lot of men in the construction trade. So I now have a whole network. Like, how you meet these people? Magic. Of builders. I was planning on doing a demonstration build last year and then injured my Achilles tendon, and that kind of just got backtracked. But the project in on the coast is a property that's now completely debt free, and we have done some initial infrastructure, like the septic, biodigester, power is run on site, so it's ready for build. So just waiting for a team to come in. If someone's got some construction trade is interested in that, is at mastery level in that. This is not tinkering level. This is like real deal build. That we are looking for a partner for that project. Might consider selling the land if somebody was looking at it for maybe like personal residence. It would support about two small casitas on the portion of that land that I own. So that's a project that too is part of the projects in work that I'm really excited about. But I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful, and been doing a lot of things that really feel good to my soul, and that I also feel are meaningful and relevant in a lot of other ways. So yeah, 4 years. I am excited about this new year and what's coming up in the future, and I'm grateful. And just thought I'd take some time to do my own reflection down memory lane of all the things and the people and the experiences that I've had. Um, all the stamps in my passport, literally in the first 4 years. I'm now on a brand new passport and it's blank, so I'm raring to go. Let a good sale come on and I'll be in the streets again. But just grateful um, for all the experiences along the way. So thank you for joining me and going down memory lane with me. So much goodness has come out of retirement. I'm grateful for all of the experiences that I've had, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years of retirement and beyond. Yeah, thanks for letting me share and do this reflection down memory lane. I'm gonna sign off and go get my tea because I'm working on hydration and work on my baby blanket. I'm working on a new blanket. It will be a gift for somebody's baby in the near future. And if you haven't already been down, come visit me in Cuenca, Ecuador. It's a lovely place to come vacation to. Check and make sure I'm home because sometimes I'll be in the streets. Make sure I'll be home. Make sure I'm in country. Um, yeah, thank you. And live life fully today. That's wisdom and admonitions from my dad that I take to heart. And I'm really working on living into more and more every day. So thanks for letting me share. You can check out a lot of the program part of my life at our collab site, nowastedtime.com. You can find information. There's free information about the healing tools. There's information about the other programs. There's links where you can get the books. The ebooks or the print books are available on Amazon. You can also find more information about the center here at globalundergroundrailroad.com. You can find some information about our women programming and the Blanket House application process at Woman Heal Together. Woman, WOMAN. You commit to healing individually, but womanhealtogether.com. There's probably links on the Global Underground Railroad page also for our Blanket House help us pass the word on that. We want women to take advantage of the space for rest. We are holding space for you. That pilot project will run for the next year, and we're grateful for all of those that helped with getting this pulled together in the last 6 weeks, almost 2 months. So I'm very grateful for all of the helping hands. That's all I got for tonight. Live life fully today, 4 years down, and many more to come. Thanks for letting me share. Good night.